So we are live on Facebook. This is the show before the show. This is how we get started every week. If you're just now tuning in, I've got a group of individuals. I've got Peter Liu, I've got Natalie Straight, and I've got John Bostock. Yeah. And these guys are doing something really, really cool. If you've been paying attention at all, if you haven't been living under a rock, there's this new app called Clubhouse. Very exclusive. Very exclusive. You got to get invited to join this thing. I've got 4 invites out there, guys. Just throwing that out there. I got 4 just lingering, just sitting out there, which makes me feel special because at first I got like 1 or 2. Anyways, there's this thing called Clubhouse, and we've got a great group of business owners, entrepreneurs, spearheading a club, a group called Louisiana Entrepreneurs that we're going to be focusing on. We're going to talk Baton Rouge entrepreneurship. We're going to be talking a little bit about this whole Clubhouse thing and how it may present some opportunities. I got to tell you, while we're killing some time waiting for our producer to get in here, I've used it to do some marketing PR groups. I've gotten some information out of that. There's some wellness groups I like to attend. There's not a lot of law. So I'm a criminal defense attorney. There's not a lot of law ones at this point. Although I've got another local attorney that's starting something. So it's interesting to me. Now, some of the proprietary stuff that Clubhouse is doing with regard to recording and all that stuff makes me a little fidgety. Fidgety is the word I'll use, Natalie. But nonetheless, I like what you guys are doing. While we're killing some time, I know that John is in New Orleans. Natalie, you're in Baton Rouge. Peter, where are you in?
We're in New Orleans.
Okay, so
Yeah.
So we were supposed to have Kenny on from 368. Mm-hmm. And Kenny would have been the other Baton Rouge person, but Kenny couldn't make it today. My claim to fame is I do some legal work for 368, and I'm the only non-368 employee that has a Patagonia 368 swag sweater. That is my only claim to fame.
And in fact, Kenny's going to get a nasty message after this interview because I do not understand why I do not have a vest.
So I'll tell you the story real fast for those who are watching. As I said, I do some legal work for 368, and I did some legal work for Gus. And at the end of it, Gus was like, well, send me an invoice for how much you owe. And I said, well, you could pay me this amount of money, or you could save your company a bunch of money and just get me this much cheaper Patagonia sweater with the emblem. And Gus being the savvy business guy that he is, was like, well, that's a no-brainer. I'll get you a Patagonia.
Took his Patagonia off and handed it to you.
So Kenny was butthurt because this has been an ongoing joke between Kenny and I for years about how, man, I can't give you swag from 368 because, I mean, candidly, you're not an employee. And while we appreciate the legal work you do, yada, yada, yada. So that is I bamboozled poor Gus. Into getting me one. And Kenny, if you know Kenny at all, Kenny's reaction was simultaneously impressed and angry at the same time. So,
well, either your rates are too low or those vests were really worth something.
Well, right. So, well, my corporate rates are generally lower. And just so the record's clear, 368 did not need anything for criminal defense. So
I don't know. I think I'm gonna hang that over his head and use that to get a Patagonia vest. The line is going to be. I heard a criminal defense attorney talking about his work that he did with your firm. Now I'll never mention it again.
It wasn't just a vest. It was a zip-up sweater. So a vest is a vest is like the mullet of the corporate world, right? It's business and then party, but a sweater is 100% 368.
So Peter, I think Peter's one of those guys who was born in a sweater vest.
Probably.
Peter was like born into the investment world. I think he came out with the Patagonia vest, the hair perfectly arranged, and he's talking about valuations, right? At birth.
Throwing out multiples right out of the womb.
So if you guys are if you guys are on Facebook and if you're on Clubhouse, I just assume that you guys are also on Facebook. You can go to the Geaux Rouge page, and we are streaming live right now. I'm going to be keeping an eye on comments. I'm going to be keeping, good morning, Kim, Carmina Ellis. Good morning, Joelle. I'll be keeping an eye on comments in case people have questions. I think the main question is going to be, how do I get on Clubhouse? That's going to be the main question, is how do I join the reindeer games? So how many invites do you have, Natalie? Not that it's a competition.
7 right now.
How do you have 7 and I only have 4? Wait, you know what it is? I've got some pending ones. That's what it is.
Let me see.
Let me see how many I have. I might have 9.
I'm looking as well.
You guys are just making me feel all like small again.
It says, this is interesting. It
I'm
says
at 8.
It says I have a discount to Patagonia sweater vests.
So I've got 11 pending. I've got 11 pending invites and I've got 4 open. So maybe I'm just sending the invites to the wrong people that are not jumping on. I don't know.
I bet if you send all your invites out, they'll just refresh you.
Yeah. So Natalie, how many followers do you have, Natalie?
I don't have very many followers. But once we start,
that makes me feel better.
Yeah, once we start this entrepreneur group, we will have hundreds of followers.
I think that is the point that Clubhouse needs to sort out. I don't think it's about quantity. I think it's about quality and how you use it as a platform. And frankly, as I look at this group, I think this group can exist whether it's on Clubhouse or other.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, Clubhouse needs to be a very easy to use platform that allows for great conversations and allows for other people to come in. But look, I mean, the value of this group is going to be the people in it and the way that we interact together and support each other.
Right.
Totally.
So one of the parts of the conversation, because we've got realtors that have been a part of the show. We have the Junior League of Baton Rouge that's been guest that comes from different walks of professions. We have young professionals galore who've been on the show, watched the show. One of the questions that I'm going to ask you guys is, why Clubhouse? What makes Clubhouse, I mean, couldn't I just live in my TikTok world and make little short videos and be happy? I mean, I do not participate in TikTok.
I'll have to look you up.
I mean, I know what TikTok is. I have an account, but I don't really participate. It's more of but my point is what makes, we'll talk about this in a little bit, what makes Clubhouse so special. And look, I also want to know candidly, I know where Natalie comes from. I mean, she's an EATEL gal. She does marketing PR. I'm going to get more information about Truman's on air, as well as Peter. You got to change your name, Peter, so that everybody can see that you're a managing partner at the venture partnership.
Yeah, sounds good.
So when you talk, this is the thing is, when you talk on Facebook Live on Zoom, your name plate, if you will, flashes. And so anybody watching can say, oh, it's Peter. Oh, Peter works for, or Natalie works for EATEL.
Let me try to do that.
Just waiting. So Brian Haldane's show clears at 9. So he's going to jump off his radio show and he'll produce ours. So we're just going to wait for him to come on. But so I was in the dentist chair this morning, getting my teeth clean. Got an A+. Got an A+. Sonicare, electric brush, Bluetooth, integrates with an app. It's a game changer. Anyways, so I'm sitting there, and the hygienist who's cleaning my teeth is like talking about New Orleans and about how, what's the vibe in New Orleans right now? Are things opening back up? We talked about Florida. We talked about Texas. And I was like, I really don't know the answer to that. I don't know what the vibe is in New Orleans right now. I don't know if they've phase shifted.
We're actually on phase 2. We're still on phase 2. Yeah. We haven't shifted with the rest of the state. But, I think it's fine. With everything going on, it just, there's no right decision here for, I think the mayor to make. I mean, if you open it all back up, you suspect everyone to risk, and if you keep it closed, and obviously it impacts everything. But it feels like the city is open. It's just not as open as it typically is, as New Orleans is.
So I had a wedding that was scheduled 2 weeks ago that had to be modified from a wedding to a civil ceremony. And then we went to dinner at Muriel's afterwards for a reception. And everybody, I mean, it was a great time. It was weird. And in fact, I was in Jackson Square. I went to a local cigar shop in Jackson, right outside of Jackson Square. And I sat in the cigar area, and it was very, I mean, I wouldn't say it was like a ghost town or anything. There were people there patroning the cigar shop and everything. Just different, just feels different. Anyways, if you're tuning in on Geaux Rouge, we're going to be starting the show momentarily. This is a special. Now, I just want to throw this out there. Was it because of Kenny that we moved the show from its normal 10 o'clock time to 9?
Yeah, totally.
I'm just looking at you, Natalie. It was because of Kenny that we moved it, right?
I mean, he's not here, so yeah, let's blame him.
We were originally going to do it in the afternoon. Kenny said it had to be morning. We then wanted to do it on a Monday. Kenny said it had to be a Tuesday. And so we went through this whole process. And so we finally negotiated. It was a tough negotiation. I walked 3 times. Peter pulled me back in. We agreed on a Tuesday morning, and Kenny didn't show up.
So he bailed last minute.
Well, there was always that chance, but it's okay. It's okay. So I don't even know where to go from there. It's interesting. I've known Kenny. So like I said earlier, I'm an attorney, and I do criminal law. I know Kenny from the food industry in Baton Rouge. He's a foodie, and I'm a foodie, and we did some small events, food events together. Wingamania, which was a chicken wing festival, as well as the mac and cheese fest. So I got to know Kenny through food, not through business. Which is, let me just say, it's a better way of knowing Kenny. It's neither here nor there, but it's funny to me because I'm actually closer friends with Kenny's wife, Laura. So yeah, anyways.
I still have to try his restaurant.
Dude, Soji's legit. Soji's modern Asian. Oh, it's very good.
Peter, maybe you and I need to go out there. Maybe you and I need to carpool, and we'll go out and we'll go to dinner.
It's good stuff.
Sounds good.
It's got a so their chicken wings are fantastic. Their raw bar is great. I like the ramen. I'll say again, I like the ramen. Some of the dishes they have are absolutely out of this world. I would make my suggestion to you guys is it's the kind of place that you kind of do the whole table style where you just start ordering stuff.
Table style, COVID style. Yeah.
Well, I mean, my point is it's if you've never been there, there's so many good things. I would go with a couple of people and order a bunch of stuff.
Just do the feed me when you get there.
Look, Peter has the vaccine. I mean, he's halfway there. I mean,
halfway there.
All right. So Brian just hopped in. We're gonna let Brian get situated. Brian, he's gonna be manning or personing the chat room. So you guys want to keep track of the chat room only because there'll be time cues in there. And Brian, whenever you're ready, I'll do a countdown and we can start the show off. Again, guys, there'll be a 2-minute intro followed by the actual show itself. If you're watching on Facebook Live and you like John, you like Peter, maybe you like Natalie, share. That's the only way I can break the elusive Facebook algorithm without paying money, which makes me feel like a whore to pay money to boost. But it's actually not too bad. It's not too bad. So if you're watching on Facebook, share. And if you got questions for these guys, maybe you're like, hey Peter, where'd you get that great haircut from? Or hey Natalie, that great Zoom backdrop you got. Like how do I
get that?
Or if you're interested in Louisiana entrepreneurs and becoming a better entrepreneur and sharing, whether it's giving, obtaining information on how to be a better entrepreneur. And I imagine this is going to cover a whole bunch of different topics: marketing, PR, how to fund your business, how to dodge creditors, no, joking. So, I mean, that may be a part of the I don't know. All right. So Brian tells me it's countdown town. So we're going to count down 5, 4, All right. Welcome to another episode of the Geaux Rouge radio show. If you're listening on Facebook Live or on Talk 107.3, welcome to the wild circus that is the Geaux Rouge show. This is your host, Franz Borchardt. Special thanks to Brian Haldane, who's in studio. This is our new format for the Geaux Rouge radio show in a COVID world, although we probably will be going back to the studio soon. We record our show in the webinar content of Zoom that streams live on Facebook and then records on the radio. So we air on Saturdays at noon, Tuesdays, normally at 10 o'clock in the morning, But when Natalie Straight, guys, when Natalie Straight says, I need you to move the radio show for some VIPs, I move the radio show. That's how important Natalie Straight is. So our show today, ladies and gentlemen, is all about entrepreneurship. And there is a group of business leaders, owners, who are starting a Clubhouse club or group called the Louisiana Entrepreneurs. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about being an entrepreneur in Louisiana. We're going to talk about Clubhouse. Before we do that, though, let's thank our show sponsors. These are the businesses that make the Geaux Rouge show possible. First and foremost, we've got Gulf Coast Title, premier title company. They sponsored last week the St. Jude Dream Home episode we did, so special thanks to them. The Smith Shanklin Sosa Personal Injury Law Firm. They are your go-to personal injury law firm. They do not stand on trucks on billboards. However, they are an exceptionally good personal injury law firm. If I had personal injury needs, they would be who I would call. Sullivan's Steakhouse, your neighborhood steak restaurant. We're going to be starting back happy hour at Sullivan's. We used to do a live stream at Sullivan's in Baton Rouge for their knockout cocktail time. We're going to start doing that soon. Perfect place to get happy hour. Perfect place to get some good food. That happy hour burger they got. Oh my gosh, so good. La Divina Italian Cafe, serving custom made from scratch breakfasts every single morning. And last but not least, the finest criminal defense firm in the universe, the Borchardt Law Firm. That's my lemonade stand. Believe it or not, I consider myself an entrepreneur, although generally when I go to entrepreneur seminars and whatnot, I'm like the only lawyer or law firm in the mix. So it's always interesting to me. But candidly, it's how I learn different things that most of us in law school aren't taught. Before we jump into our episode, if you want to get more information about the Geaux Rouge show, go to www.geauxrouge.com, www.geauxrouge.com. And if you want to email us show topics, if you're watching and you're like, man, I like that Peter guy, and I want us to talk about this, that, or the other, or you need to have this person on, email us at info at geauxrouge.com. Last sponsor, Natalie. Last sponsor I need to give a shout out to Dr. G. She is with MD VIP Heal 360, Dr. Gunja Raina. She is a game changer in my health. If you've been watching the Geaux Rouge show for the last couple of weeks, I am on what can only be described as a forks over knives diet. I see her monthly. We talk on a daily basis about health. Concierge medical services, Natalie. That means access. You definitely want to give her a shout out. MD VIP, Dr. Gunja Raina. I'm going to have her back on the show soon to talk a little bit. I'm off the potato diet and I'm eating what can only be characterized as a pescatarian diet right now. So without further ado, though, you guys may remember Natalie Straight from EATEL. She was on an episode a few weeks back. And Natalie generally is somebody I look at and say, okay, who do I need to have on the radio show? And Natalie has hit home runs every single time she's told me who to put on the show. So Natalie said, hey, Franz, you need to have the Louisiana Entrepreneur Group on. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. She asked me if I'd ever heard of Clubhouse. Well, at the time, I'll just be vulnerable. I've been reading a lot of Brene Brown, Natalie. I'll be vulnerable for a minute. I hadn't heard of Clubhouse. And I'm like, what is Clubhouse? So that's where we start. Natalie Straight is with EATEL. Natalie, introduce your guest. This is your show today, Natalie, not my show. Introduce your guest, and we're going to jump in with the Clubhouse conversation.
All right, so today we have John Bostock. John is the CEO and co-founder of Truman's. Truman's is an eco-friendly, sustainable cleaning company. They have really great products. You really need to check that out. And he also spent some time at GE Ventures. He was the head of GE Ventures. He worked hand in hand with Beth Comstock. He's good friends with my friend Kenny Wynn, who is the CEO of 368, who is a huge part of this group that we're launching. He's one of the moderators, one of the founders, but he couldn't make today's radio show, but we're still going to give him a shout out because we love him. And also Peter Liu, who is good friends with John, and Peter is a managing partner at Revelry Venture Partners, and he helps connect companies to cash.
All right, so we're going to start micro and then go macro. So first and foremost, if you're watching today and you're like, what is Clubhouse? How do I get on Clubhouse? If you want an invite to Clubhouse, I'm giving them out like candy, baby. I'm giving them out like candy. So if you need an invite to Clubhouse, email me at info@geauxrouge.com, info@geauxrouge.com. So Natalie, let's start there. What is Clubhouse?
Clubhouse is an audio-only social media platform. So it kind of came out of nowhere. They launched their private beta in December, and very quickly, once they launched it, they had 600,000 users. And from December to now, they've grown from 600,000 to over 200 million. They were valued at $1 billion. Recently, were valued at $1 billion valuation, and everybody's kind of scratching their head like, what is this? Where did it come from? How is this so popular? But if you look at the consumer behavior trends, this actually has been predicted for a while. Like we have seen the rise in podcasts and these audio formats. Like people want to listen to people now that we've been in quarantine for a year. Our text-based social media platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter, they're really not working for us. Like they're just kind of shallow, kind of surface level information. People just kind of sharing stuff and people commenting, but it's not real in depth. It's not like a conversation. And on Clubhouse, there's power in the human voice. Like just like us right now, we're having a conversation and this is good and we're going to talk and we're going to play off of each other and get a lot of insights and great information. But the next level of that is invite people on stage. So there might be people listening to the show right now that have a question. And if they're on Clubhouse, all they do is they press a little button, they raise their hand, we invite them on stage, and now they can talk to us. Now they're part of the show, they're in the action. So it gets you, there's an intimacy to it. It gets you closer to the host.
In a way, the Geaux Rouge show, Franz Borchardt from the Geaux Rouge show was a pioneer before Clubhouse.
Absolutely.
With his concept. However, my radio show is not valued at, how many billion is it again?
1 billion.
So
well, that's why you need to get into our Clubhouse so we can teach you how to get $1 billion valuation.
Well, and tongue in cheek, I've actually been asked about doing the show in the Clubhouse format, and I said that would be fun. I mean, the only difference for me is what I would have Clubhouse playing with a microphone instead of Zoom and Facebook Live. So, all right, so we're going to change gears a little bit. One of the cool things about Clubhouse is you can't just join, right? You have to be, it's exclusive. You have to be invited, right? And then the users of Clubhouse get a certain amount of invites depending on their activity, right? So it's kind of like,
and that's called in marketing terms, if you want to read about it, it's called the velvet rope strategy.
Who doesn't like exclusivity? Okay, so you're on Clubhouse, you get on Clubhouse, you know all these guys. Whose idea was it to start? Okay, and so everybody's clear. On Clubhouse, there are different groups, different clubs that talk about different topics. You can talk about wellness. So if you are in, for example, if you're into meditation, there are meditation groups. If you're into marketing and PR, there are marketing and PR groups. There's pretty much a group under the sun for anything that's out there. And if there isn't, you can in fact make a club or group, right? So who had the brilliant idea? Who gets credit for the Louisiana Entrepreneur Group?
I think that's John.
Okay, so John, talk to me about how you came up with this and what steps you took to start the ball rolling on this.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say it's all centered in my brilliant idea. I think Kenny, Peter, Natalie, and I have been talking about ways to move entrepreneurship forward in Louisiana. And I think we're all independently doing things that ultimately make the economy stronger here. And so when we took a step back and said, what are we doing in our lives to think about new business concepts or think about ways to bring people together, the common thread was we're using Clubhouse right now. But the bottom line is that what we're trying to do is build a strong community of entrepreneurs that can work together, that can collaborate and think about how to move business forward. So look, you're right, Franz. We may end up doing our bit on your show every week or a derivative of your show as a way to bring people together. It's not about Clubhouse per se. It's about the concept of bringing people together in a collaborative way and allowing for others within that ecosystem to go there. Now, look, Clubhouse happens to have a strong group of entrepreneurs from all over the world as a participant. And so what we want is Louisiana-based entrepreneurs to not only learn from the group, a collaborative group, but to also have access to other game-changing ideas that are happening in the world.
So I have said several times that the limitation of this format for my radio show is the only way I can make it interactive is either one, by doing it live stream to where people participate, or to have enough people in the show format to where we can be interactive, right? With Zoom, that allows for lots of people, but you've got to have a stable internet. You've got to have video access. And there's a lot of needs that happen. Whereas with Clubhouse, I think you just need a stable phone or moderately stable internet, but the bandwidth is not nearly the same because you're not doing video. It's all audio. And if you just want to sit, so the listeners know, if you just want to sit and listen and not participate, although I think listening is probably, that's another conversation for another day, Natalie, and listening can be a bigger participation sometimes than talking. If you just want to listen, you can do that. If you want to raise your hand and participate, they can promote you to one of the panelists. You can do all sorts of interactive stuff. So I like this concept. Now, when Natalie told me about this, John, she said, look, we're doing this thing. I immediately went to Clubhouse and started searching. And I was like, Natalie, this is supposed to be the best thing since sliced bread and I can't find it. And she goes, we're not going to start it until we reach a certain threshold. So talk to me a little bit about what the plan is on, and I say starting it as in actually starting it on Clubhouse. So talk to me about where you guys are now and what the plan is.
So our plan is we wanted to get 50 people interested in the club, sign up for the club before we started the room. So we sent out an email to all the contacts we had. Thanks to Peter, he had a huge list that he was able to provide for us. We've been reaching out to people directly. And so far we have 20 people who have responded to our email and filled out our Google form and said that they will join our club. So when we launched this club, like, we want it to be real. We want it to hit the ground running. We want to start with value from day one. We don't want to just start up a club and have 2 or 3 people in it and it just be kind of like awkward and not really reaching its full potential. So we want to set ourselves up for success, get the 50 people, start the club, define some topics, figure out what is it that Louisiana entrepreneurs need right now, what conversations need to be had, who are the subject matter experts that we need to pull in, and how do we connect them to value.
So, okay, I am sometimes, as you know, Natalie, sometimes I host the Pitch BR pitch nights. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I work with the Baton Rouge Entrepreneur Week and do work with them. What's interesting to me is, and I'm going somewhere with this besides just bragging about the stuff I do. What's interesting to me is these seminars, and Kenny has done it with Assembly Required. Mm-hmm. Brew has done it with its seminar. These seminars create forums that are what I will characterize as safe environments, where you can talk to other business owners. And while you may not give away trade secrets, you are having a real conversation with someone else about a business topic, to where everybody's kind of letting their guard down a little bit. Everyone's trying to learn a little bit of something, giving and getting. How do you create that safe space in a Clubhouse club or group?
Yeah, I'll take that one. I mean, I think one of the beauties of Clubhouse is the spontaneity that happens on there. You can see a friend that pops into the room that you're talking about a topic and you're like, hey, like, you actually know more about this topic than I am. Let's bring this person on stage. And she's talking about all of her experiences and working in that space. And all of a sudden that knowledge gets shared with not only the moderators, but with everyone on the show. From a safe space perspective, this isn't a produced show. Like, one of the things that I've gotten tired of throughout the quarantine period is, all of these podcasts, you start to hear the same things over and over again. They're overly produced. It's very safe, but when you're talking live on a radio show or in a Clubhouse environment, people are just talking naturally. And, sometimes people may say something that they probably shouldn't say, but that's the cool part about Clubhouse is, you get to hear these tidbits, these knowledge. And I think they are regulating recordings and things like that around it. So, you can't really go out and share this, but we'll see where that goes.
So what's interesting to me is, and I'm putting my jury selection hat on. One of the few areas of law I'm really, really good at is jury selection. And it's getting people to share information that is truthful about themselves in an environment with other people. And then there's the how I want to be perceived and how I really am, right? And sometimes those don't line up. Sometimes they do line up. What I think is interesting about Clubhouse is I think people forget they're in a live streaming environment. And that is what is allowing for some of the honesty. And to some degree, while there's profiles like Franz is Franz, Peter's Peter, there is still that weird anonymity of, there's a safety of, okay, I may be in California, you're in New Orleans, Natalie's in Baton Rouge, and I can talk. And it's not like Natalie's going to show up to my house with a gun the next day. Not that Natalie would ever do that. Stalker. Not that she would ever do that. She works at EATEL. They don't do that kind of stuff. So point being, I agree. I think the rawness and truthfulness of the platform is great. I have been in groups that stuff has been said, and I'm like, I can't believe that person just said that. And it's like so fresh and it's so real, but in the same breath, I could never say that kind of stuff on a radio show, which makes it a better platform in some respects. We got about 5 minutes to go in the first segment. If you're just tuning in, I've got John from Truman's, I've got Peter from Revelry Venture Partners, and I have Natalie from EATEL. We are talking about Clubhouse and a new Clubhouse. Am I using the right word? I've been saying club. Is it group or club, Natalie?
It's a room.
It's a room.
It's a room.
Ooh. So a new Clubhouse room called Louisiana Entrepreneurs that is going to be coming our way very soon. These guys are spearheading it, minus Kenny Wynn, who couldn't be here today from 368. Kenny has been on the show before, great friend. If you're just now tuning into the Geaux Rouge show, we're going to have these guys on for a second segment talking about entrepreneurship. And look, we haven't even talked about Zoom fatigue, which is, by the way, like a thing, right? So now we're starting to see studies, and did we really need studies to say, hey, we're fatigued off this? Which I'll tell you again, guys, as someone who does a radio show via Facebook Live using a Zoom platform, that is in the back of my mind, is I do it because I care about you guys. I care about John. I care about Natalie and Peter. I don't want them in a small space where I can give them something, and more importantly, I can get something from them in terms of the virus. So this is just an easy solution to having different people on the show at different places, and the only thing I have to worry about is a stable internet connection. But in the same breath, to the people watching out in the Facebook world, there is a fatigue component of this. And this is meant to be entertaining. This isn't meant to be a business meeting. Yeah. Like, does EATEL use Zoom or Microsoft to do inter meetings, Natalie?
Sure. Yeah, we use Zoom. We use Microsoft Teams. We use a session GoToMeeting.
I had this vision of. So I was hanging out at a local cigar shop. Shout out to Habanaport. I'm a cigar smoker, as the listeners know. And I was talking to somebody that used to work at Dow, and he was telling me that Dow is now, most of their employees that don't work in the plant but work for Dow, they're home. And there's no plan in the future to get home. And I said, man, what's that like for them? Because I'm scratching and clawing. I want to get back to my office. I want to get back to courtrooms. And he goes, they love it. But the complaint is the Zoom and the interaction. So we got about 2 minutes. If you're tuning in, we've got, always great to have Natalie Straight on. Natalie, you just need to become a co-host of the show. We just need to make Natalie Straight a co-host of the show. Natalie's like, no thanks, I'm good.
I've got a Clubhouse.
She is the co-host of the show.
Right?
That is true. That is true. Now I feel a little weird. Anyways, so if you're just now tuning in, if you want to get more information about the Geaux Rouge show, go to www.geauxrouge.com. You can also go to the Talk 107.3 website where all our past episodes are on demand, as well as our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel, Natalie, the Geaux Rouge YouTube channel. It's hot. It's got like less than 50 people following it. It's great. It's not about the numbers, right? It's about the quality of the followers, is what I'm told. I don't know if that's true or not. Anyways, we're about to hit our first break. Natalie, let me ask you, how many folks do you have signed up right now, and how many do we need before you guys launch this route?
We have 20 right now, and we need 50 to launch.
I haven't signed up yet, so I'm 21. I'm number 21.
There you go.
I mean, I'm going to sign up, Peter. I'm going to sign up, John. I just haven't yet. So anyways, we're about to take our first break. If you're listening, we'll be back with the second segment of the Geaux Rouge show. Again, we're with Natalie Straight from EATEL. We're with John from Truman's, and we're with Peter from Revelry Venture Partners, talking about entrepreneurs, talking about a Clubhouse room that's going to be started up. Normally we talk about Baton Rouge topics, but I kind of was okay with this one, Natalie, because candidly, the world we're living in is, one, we have Baton Rouge entrepreneurs, right? It's kind of a thing. We have some Baton Rouge entrepreneurs. We've got entrepreneurs all throughout the state of Louisiana. And number two is the way we're doing business now, this is kind of it, right? We're kind of doing virtual. We're kind of doing, if you haven't checked out Clubhouse, you definitely need to check them out. Hey, Oprah loves Clubhouse. That should be enough for you. Oprah loves Clubhouse. If you need a Clubhouse invite, email us at info@geauxrouge.com. We're going to take our first break, so we will be right back. Stick around for the second segment of the Geaux Rouge show. And if you're listening, we'll stay live on Facebook where the fun continues. We're going to give Brian a second to clear us. And if you're listening on Facebook Live right now, shoot out some questions if you have them. If you want to make commentary on Natalie's hair, looks magnificent today, Natalie. You can do that. John's t-shirt game is on point. So I had federal court this afternoon or this morning. So after I get done here at 11 o'clock, I've got to go to the federal courthouse in Baton Rouge. And then I have a 1 o'clock hearing. So that's the only reason I'm bow tied up and dressy this morning.
I dig it.
I like
I care about you guys.
You're missing the suspenders though.
So I don't really, I'm not, suspenders are not really my jam. I like the belt. There's a story behind that, but that's neither here nor there.
So I just side note, I have heard suspenders at about $50 on the hourly rate for lawyers. So on average, lawyers can charge $50 more if they wear suspenders. Just throwing that out there.
So hopefully you'll never learn.
See, these are the kind of insights you will get only in our Clubhouse room that you won't hear anywhere else.
So
nothing is true, but we cite research all the time.
So John, hopefully you'll never learn this firsthand, but criminal defense is actually a flat fee industry. I hopefully you and Peter will never know that from me. But yeah, we do flat fees. We don't do hourly. Now, if I help with corporate, so I have a handful of, I started in business law. And so I have a handful of small businesses that I do advisory work for and help out, and that's hourly. But
I've got this terrible concept of showing up at your office with a flip book, and it's like a murder scene, and it's like $500, and then the next one is like a grocery store that's been robbed, and that's like $250, and I just kind of flip through and say, I'll take the murder scene, and
So there's not really like an a la carte menu. It's not like a restaurant, but I will say that. So, and in fact, we have industry standard. I mean, we're talking about lawyers now. We have industry standards where we can't have a fee schedule as a profession. So we can't. There's antitrust rules and licensing rules in place, so we can't I mean, if Peter and I decide to charge the same amount for a certain service, that's okay. But the bar cannot. Yeah, Natalie, I got your message. The bar as a whole cannot set a fee. Now, I have a ethical obligation per my license to be reasonable in my fees, and what is reasonable is based on my experience, my knowledge, my years of practice, my resources, all that stuff. So, but it's like I'm about to compare myself to an artist. It's like an artist. An artist paints a painting, and Picasso sells that painting for $1 million. Once he sells his first painting for $1 million, what is a Picasso painting worth? Well, we know it's at least $1 million, right? So if I charge X amount for a DWI, once I get paid that much, the question becomes, is that reasonable? Well, yes and no.
Right.
If I'm charging 10 times what everybody else is charging, then it's not necessarily. Yeah, in the second half of the show, when we get back, we'll talk a little bit about John's story. We'll talk about Peter and his.
So Peter, let's, I think, think about it. One of our first meetings was at the Ace Hotel rooftop, drinking tea, by the way, just for everyone, because I know this is live. No alcohol was consumed during the rooftop meeting, which took place today. And so we're going to talk about the book and Peter's story.
Yeah, we're going to definitely do that. Toby Gomez is rolling in, writing, I'm coming in late for the Clubhouse discussion. Is it the right group or right spot for owner of a fitness studio? And I will tell you, Toby, absolutely. There is wellness rooms on there. I don't know. I mainly use the meditation one, but there are ones about fitness. There are ones about eating. So absolutely want to do that. So we're going to come on back. We'll count down. We'll do the intro, and then we'll jump back in. We're counting down 5, 4. All right. Welcome back to the second half of the Geaux Rouge radio show. This is your host, Franz Borchardt. We are coming in on episode 67. We've done 67 of these things. If you're tuning in on Facebook Live or you're tuning in on Talk 107.3, welcome to the show. Special thanks to Brian Haldane, who is at the Talk 107.3 studio producing this bad boy, producing this radio show. And special thanks to our show sponsors. These are the businesses that make the Geaux Rouge radio show possible. First and foremost, we have La Divina Italian Restaurant, serving select wines, ice cold beers, and their exclusive sorbet mimosa. Great addition to brunch. The Borchardt Law Firm, criminal defense firm, that's my lemonade stand. We serve the Baton Rouge and Louisiana areas in federal, state, and municipal criminal defense work. Sullivan Steakhouse, your neighborhood steak restaurant. The Smith Shanklin Sosa Personal Injury Law Firm. The Gulf Coast Title Company, Gulf Coast Title, great local business. Special shout out to them again for hosting our segment last week on the St. Jude Dream Home. And last but not least, our favorite Baton Rouge doctor, Dr. Gunja Reina from MD VIP at Heal 360 Concierge Medicine. It is a game changer. It has made my health and my lifestyle tremendously better, from diet to general wellness to just having a doctor that lobbies and goes to bat for you. The classic story I've been telling people is she prescribed me a medicine that I went to my pharmacy, and through insurance, it was going to cost me $500. And she's like, oh no. And she sent me a link to a coupon. And at the end of using the coupon, it cost me $25. That may be, in fact, an indictment on the pharmaceutical industry, but that's another conversation for another day. But how many doctors do you know that are going to take the time to do that for you? And that sold me. I love her to death. Dr. G, you definitely need to check her out at www.mdvip.com/docs/Gunja Reina MD. Definitely give her a shout out. Tell the Geaux Rouge Show sent you. If you're tuning into the Geaux Rouge Show, we've got some great business folks on. We've got Natalie from EATEL. We've got Peter from Revelry Venture Partners and John from Truman's. We are talking about Clubhouse. And we're also talking about Louisiana Entrepreneurs, a Clubhouse room that's going to be coming to you guys in the near future. And Natalie, certainly we're going to get information from you on how people can sign up for that. But we're going to talk a little bit. We talked in the first half about what Clubhouse is and why we're starting this group. We're going to start this segment talking a little bit about, Natalie, about some of the folks that you have invited to be a part of the show. John, I am told that I need to get a little bit of your story and I need to get a little bit of Peter's story out there. So Peter, we're going to start with you first. Peter, tell me a little bit about first of all, what is Revelry Venture Partners, and how you got to where you are, and kind of what was your trajectory?
Yeah, so my career professionally has primarily been in venture capital. I've been investing in startups and the entrepreneurs that found these companies for about a decade. Started off in Chicago with a firm called the Pritzker Group, investing primarily in early stage companies. Opened up an office for them in Los Angeles, where I lived for the last 3.5 years, and then moved to New Orleans about a year ago, which is my wife's hometown. And we always joke, when you marry a girl from New Orleans, you eventually move back to New Orleans. And so here we are, and we're back. And my belief really is that Silicon Valley doesn't have a monopoly on entrepreneurship, and especially tech entrepreneurship. I think great companies can be built everywhere. In the last year, throughout the pandemic, you've seen a ton of people boomerang back to either their hometowns or cities that traditionally hasn't been known for tech, just either for cost of living or to be closer to family. And the fact that they can build these companies and work anywhere now. And so we saw a great opportunity to help the entrepreneurship community here in Louisiana and across the entire Gulf South with capital. So that's where Revelry Venture Partners comes in. Is we're a venture capital firm. We provide capital for startups that are building primarily tech-enabled businesses, software or services or marketplaces. And we look to be their first capital in to help them really get off the ground, take off. And we provide a lot of services ourselves around not just capital, but around what we do to hopefully build more homegrown businesses here in Louisiana.
So talk to me a little bit. The lawyer in me asks questions that I sometimes know the answers to, because I want those who are uninitiated to know. As a venture capitalist, obviously you're perceived as the outside world, as the investor, the money, if you will.
Sure.
What role do you typically play with the companies that you are investing in?
Yeah, it's a great question. So one of the things that we found, if you look this up, there's thousands of venture firms now. It's really become a really big industry with lots of firms competing. And so the capital and the money piece is starting to really become the commoditized factor. And so what we try to do is we try to make sure that entrepreneurs pick us to be their capital partner because of what we bring to the table outside of just money. And for us, we really think of technology as the enabler of businesses going forward. Every company now is a tech company. 10 years ago, you'd say, this is a tech company. This is now, we saw some comments in the chat about, hey, I run a fitness studio. Well, fitness studios now are run with tech at their core. And so what we try to do is we provide capital to help them grow and hire the right team and get to the next phase of the business. But we provide also technology support, so we can actually get them to build the technology that they need to turn their vision into a reality, which if you think about 95% of entrepreneurs out there, they're non-technical. And these entrepreneurs typically get disqualified by venture firms with the tech focus. And so we try to fill that gap.
So, and what's interesting to me is, and we've had, recently, we had Relief Telemed on, where the mingling of healthcare and tech in some ways that are they're subtle, but very relevant to what's going on. So we're going to change gears a little bit. So I hear that John's kind of a big deal, Natalie. Everybody I've talked to says John's a big deal. So John, we want to hear your story. In fact, you've written a book as well, haven't you?
Well, it sounds like I've got to set the record straight. I'm not a big deal, and I hate to disappoint you and all those people who shared that with you. So, I'm just a normal dad who gets told every day that he's not as cool as the friends or not as cool as the people on TikTok. So, That's
mommy.
who I am.
So I get told I'm not as cool as mommy, which is absolutely 100% true. So
yeah. You know, and I asked my kids the other day, I said, do I really look old to you? And then we got into this whole discussion about, yes, you know, you have gray hair and you look old. So anyway, just to give you a little bit about my background, grew up in a very small town. My ancestors came to the US with nothing. And I kind of grew up in this environment of entrepreneurial spirit and this idea that you've got to make things work in order to push you and your future generations forward. And then I found myself at GE, which is this like really large company. And I'm not kidding when I say, look, I had a great salary, but there were those moments where you look in the mirror and you say, what the hell am I doing? You know, how am I contributing in the same way that my ancestors did? And what's fascinating about it is when I was writing the book that you mentioned, I had a conversation with Peter. And Peter comes from the same situation where, you know, he found himself thinking about, you know, my ancestors, my parents took on big risk. And here I am at Pritzker wondering, should I leave, right? No offense, Peter, but your salary at Pritzker was similar to mine at GE. It's great. We're doing really well in the grand scheme of things. But we had those moments where we stood and looked in the mirror and said, we want to do more. Yeah, so I wrote a book about ultimately taking leaps and about thinking about the world as a global community, thinking about driving innovation forward as a way that makes ultimately our neighborhoods stronger, our cities stronger, states, countries, and globe, and thinking about it as one entity. But, you know, look, I think we need to inspire more people to look at the world as a singular place. And we need to get more people to think about how to innovate in a world that's moving faster, that's only dealing with more complex issues. And the irony, of course, is here we are sitting in a Zoom session because of a global pandemic. We really need to come together and drive innovation that solves big issues.
So the name of your book, is it The Elephant's Dilemma?
It is. It is. And the quick background on that is, look, elephants in circus were trained to be tethered to a pole. And as they grow big and strong, they don't realize they can break free. We're the same way. It just so happens that a lot of times our jobs, the thing that we do, that we punch in every morning, is the pole that we're tethered to. And we have these ideas where we want to break free, and we can do it. And the great news is that there are groups like us who are willing to say we're here to help, you know, not only from an advisory standpoint, from a capital standpoint. I think that's ultimately, you know, circle back to the first segment. What we're talking about is bringing people together to collaborate, to drive innovation forward. And that's really the heart of the book. That's the heart of what I do and what I believe in.
So it's interesting, some of the same cognitive psychology that is deployed for marketing and PR is deployed for jury selection. And when I teach seminars on jury selection, I use the example of the baby elephant that is trained, and then I get them to imagine what it would take to hold them down. Would it be, you know, if I told you I'm going to use a string or a small rope and a wooden little spike, and that is going to be what holds Natalie down, you know, and prevents her from escaping, Natalie would of course laugh at that. And then I make the analogy that when we make decisions, it's those decisions are often fettered by that very principle. I'm going to have to read, Natalie, how have I not read this book? I've got to read this book. So if you're tuning in, we're talking Louisiana entrepreneurs. Man, I like that. And I like the fact that you guys were at, I hate to say safe environments, but yeah, you're making good money, you're doing safe things, and then you decide, you know what, there's more, right? Whether that's because, hey, look, my ancestors took risks that, and look, our risk taking as a society is much different than it was. Like the idea of crossing an ocean and settling somewhere where there's no sewage, there's no toilets, there's no electricity, that's so much different, you know, but the feeling is still very similar. So, okay, we've talked to John, we've talked to Peter. Natalie, we have to rehash you a little bit. So what is your role with EATEL?
I'm the director of marketing at EATEL, and that includes EATEL Business, Venue, RTC, and Vision Communications. So all over the state.
English. Speak English, Natalie. What does that mean?
Basically, EATEL is an ISP, right? We provide internet. We have the largest fiber to the home network in the state. Louisiana is a technology capital. Like, we have great infrastructure, and that's why it's such a good place for entrepreneurs. I was talking to Kenny the other day, and one of the things we were talking about is this new Amazon warehouse. So Amazon is building two of its largest warehouses in the entire country right here in Louisiana. And one of the reasons they made that selection is because there is a huge rise in digital entrepreneurs in Louisiana. Like, it's number 5 in the country in growth for digital entrepreneurs. And a lot of these digital entrepreneurs, they're small and medium-sized businesses, and they're selling their products through the Amazon warehouse. So we have this infrastructure. We have this infrastructure to move digital entrepreneurs forward, to attract big companies here. And we need to do more. We need to help more people break free and just take one step, and that little stake will pop out of the ground. And that's the whole precipice of this group that we're starting. We have everything we need. We have the people, we have the ideas, we have the innovation, we have the technology, we have the capital. We just need to help people see that. We just need to connect them to each other.
So we just lost. So if you're just now tuning in, John had to go teach a class. So it's now just little old me and Peter and Natalie. Okay. So let's fast forward a little bit. You get your 50 Clubhouse members that sign up and want to be a part of this room. Talk to me, one of you guys talk to me about what are the next steps after that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the 50 is really just to try to get the community started. As we go forward, we'll obviously look to grow that, but also start to create that connectivity with this group, with everyone else in our networks, whether they're in Louisiana or not. That information that people can share, that knowledge, will hopefully just start to grow the power of the network. And we also look, it's the 4 of us right now that are moderating to start, but we want to bring people onto the show, right? We want to, if there's someone in the audience that is an expert in a certain topic or a certain subject, or has the experience that we want to showcase, or a story of a company that they founded, we want to bring them on board to tell those stories and try to create that platform. I mean, there's a great quote that I love, or a kind of framework around community building, which is something dear to me. It's you build communities not for people, you build communities with people. And so, our whole idea is just the 4 of us is kicking something off the ground, but we want to loop in as many people as possible into this to try to create a thriving ecosystem here in Louisiana, which I think we can.
I think what's interesting to me is, and we saw it in the Facebook stream where we had a listener ask about fitness and a fitness business. And, I know, Peter, you predominantly deal with tech. Natalie, you, just by the nature of what you do, I would imagine that's probably also a similar situation. But the fact that is that a fitness company may not necessarily be exclusive to its tech possibilities or connectivity to tech. And look, I'm a walking, living, breathing example. I have a small law practice that, because of technology, I am able to do things that 20 years ago I would have needed a team to do. And I would have needed twice the space to do it. And I can do it now mobily to where it really, La Divina Italian Cafe can be my law office sometimes. Sometimes the bar area in Sullivan's can be my law office. Sometimes me sitting in the doctor, if I'm at Dr. G's office, waiting for an appointment, that can be a law office. So I think the fact that our ideas of what a community of entrepreneurs is also going to evolve, right? I like the fact that our topic has shifted a little bit to comfort zone and leaping out of the comfort zone. I want to go there for a minute. We got the time. We got about 5 minutes to go. Natalie, if somebody is listening to all this and they're thinking, yeah, this sounds great, this whole idea of participating in a Clubhouse room sounds great, but that's really outside of my comfort zone, what might you say to that person?
Growth starts at your comfort zone. So, I mean, you take me for example. I was at Blue Cross for 11 years, and I had a great job there, and it was very safe. But I knew there was something more. I was at a glass ceiling. I needed to break free. So I took a step out, and that was very scary. That was a lot scarier than I thought it would be. Even though I had a great job to to go to and everything was fine and my 9 to 5 was straight, it was still very scary. And I knew that, well, I needed to do something more, not put all my eggs in one basket. So I actually started investing in real estate because I had this idea, like, I don't want to work my whole life in survival mode, just working for money. Like, I want to make my money work for me, give me more options, so then I can go out and do bigger things in the world. Like, I have ideas and dreams too, and I would never be able to pursue those if I didn't have some capital, if I didn't have some safety. Like, nothing comes from your survival mode. When you're in survival mode, you're just worried about like your next paycheck. You got to pay off your mortgage, you got to take care of your kids, and you're not able to dream. And whenever you have a little bit more security and you're doing things on your own and you're building things, you get to that next level where you're out of survival mode and you're able to thrive, and you have clearer ideas and you have that freedom to dream. And that's the whole thing we're doing with this group. Like, a lot of people are in situations right now where they're not feeling safe. You know, this COVID has changed everything. It's changed businesses, and it was already like this before that. It's just accelerated. Like, it's very rare that you can work for a company for 40 years. So what are you going to do? You need to go out, you need to break free, you need to do something for yourself, and you can do that alongside your 9 to 5. You don't have to take that big leap at once. You can do it over time. Take small steps.
So there are two phrases that I live by. One, there is no growth in the comfort zone and no comfort in the growth zone, right? Which is so true, right?
So true.
Growing is painful, and if you're really interested in developing you as a person, you're constantly in a state of growth. The other, and I guess in 2 minutes we got left, Peter, you probably experienced this reality more than I do, but you know, failure is inevitable. It is going to happen. I would imagine that while your success is measured by those businesses you invest in where you get that great return, you can also measure success in, these are companies I thought were going to do great, and I learned something because it didn't end up the way we thought it would be. And look, if you were only investing in the lowest risk companies,
sure,
you know, it would be a totally different game for you, right? So
right.
I'm gonna give Peter, I'm gonna give you the last word on this. Talk to me about your experiences about growth and risk taking.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in the ultimate risk taking profession. You know, we put together portfolios of companies, you know, 20, 25 companies, and I'd say probably a third to a half of them will fail. And part of the mentality that we're trying to create for entrepreneurs in our ecosystem is really like to embrace failure, to embrace that risk, right? And get out of your comfort zone. Because if everybody's afraid to fail, because if once they fail, they're written off by the rest of the community, then no one is going to go and take that leap. But if they start seeing entrepreneurs and their investors and other people that work for those companies say, you know, we gave it a shot, didn't work out, on to the next one, then I think people will start to say, okay, it's okay to take these risks. It's okay to take that leap of faith. And I think that's going to just allow us to push the envelope a little bit further here in our state and start to build more companies. So,
well, Peter, Natalie, thank you guys for joining me. John had to bug out a little early. We are just about out of time. Natalie, straight from EATEL, you are welcome to take over my show whenever you'd like. You always have fantastic guests on. Peter and John did not disappoint, and Kenny would have been great too. But don't tell Kenny I said that.
He would have been okay.
Kenny, it's okay. I definitely, and I know we only have like 30 seconds left. I'm telling you, Peter, when New Orleans opens up a little bit more, Kenny and I are going to go to make another New Orleans food run. We used to make runs where we would stop at like 5 or 6 different restaurants and eat like one thing at each restaurant. So
yeah, that sounds right up my alley.
Dude, we'll have to make sure you're included. Natalie, you may get an invite too. So thank you guys for listening to the Geaux Rouge show. For more information, go to www.geauxrouge.com. Louisiana entrepreneurs, a new and upcoming Clubhouse room. Definitely want to check them out. And if you need a Clubhouse invite, shoot me over an email at info@geauxrouge.com. From us to you, have a great week, and we will catch you guys next time. Have a great one. All right, let's give Brian a second to clear us. And Facebook, if you're watching on Facebook, real fast, Natalie, if they wanted to get on the sign-up list, because I don't think we mentioned this, if they want to get on the list, if you could, in the Facebook chat, which I'm sure you're watching, just put the email or whatever so that they can get that. If you're listening on Facebook, that'll be the way you can sign up. Peter, thank you guys for giving us time. We'll go off Facebook Live. Natalie, I'm gonna let you do it first. Tell me when you're cleared, okay?
Yeah, it's done. I put the link to the sign up form in the chat earlier, so it's there.
All right, sounds good.
I think you promoted it too. Thanks.
I'm gonna turn Facebook Live off.